Hello, and welcome to Family Read Aloud. My name is Heather. I'm the Youth Services Librarian here at Pennsauken Free Public Library. And during this summer reading program, the theme is Imagine Your Story, and so we are reading all sorts of tall tales and folklore. And it occurs to me as we are going into the last week of summer reading that I did not focus on anything that was set really locally this summer, so I set out to find something, and I found an illustrated picture book retelling the version of the Legend of the Jersey Devil, which is local to the New Jersey Pine Barrens, which is a little bit further south and east of us, but is one of the largest ecosystems of its type on the East Coast. And if you're not familiar with the Jersey Devil, this is one version of the story. So this was written by Trinka Hakes Noble, who is a longtime New Jersey resident, and illustrated by Gerald Kelly, and this is the legend of the Jersey Devil. And this was published by Sleeping Bear Press in 2013, and I'm just going to read you, there is a short introduction here. There is a wild and mysterious place in New Jersey that has kept its ancient ways. Long, spindly fingers of briny ocean mist creep through its dark pine groves on currents as old as time. Water that flowed on earth eons ago still slithers through its tangled roots like poisonous snakes. And lurking in its black swamps and murky bogs are hidden secrets of evil stories that can only be told on the darkest of night. For 'tis believed the place is haunted. Some believe the ghosts of pirates, smugglers, and scoundrels roam the backwoods, lonely roads, and inland waterways on moonless nights. Unearthly sounds, like the shrieks and wails of witches, have been heard above the howling winds. Others say the spirit of the Lenape medicine men appear in the swampy mist where long ago they cast spells, sending foul vapors over the villages of their enemies. Many believe the early settlers cursed the place by calling it the Pine Barrens, because no good, wholesome crops could be grown in its poor, sandy soil. So the few early colonists and their descendants who settled in the Pine Barrens were a hardy lot. One dark night, these brave folks gathered around their evening fires and passed down many ghoulish tales, haunting legends, and scary stories. But the most frightening story of all that has been told in the Pine Barrens for over 300 years is one not about an ordinary witch, ghoul, or goblin. Oh no, this terrifying tale is about the supreme specter of all, the very devil himself, the Jersey Devil. Long ago, in 1735, when the British Crown ruled New Jersey, a strange and terrifying event took place on a remote stretch of land called Leeds Point. In a poor hamlet of a woodsman's cottage and fishermen's huts, there lived an old woman who had 12 children. Folks called her Mother Leeds. One dark autumn night, close to All Hallows Eve, or Halloween as we call it now, a fierce storm blew in from the Atlantic Ocean. Its savage winds and pounding rains tore at every shingle and shutter in this poor little settlement. On that stormy night, Mother Leeds was about to give birth to her 13th child, and as was the custom, midwives were called in to assist in the birth. Essie Turnbuckle hurried to serve her husband chicken foot soup, then threw on her cloak and lit a lantern. "That Leeds woman is birthing again," she said with a worried frown. "I don't know when I'll return." Outside she met Hattie Higby. The two clutched each other, bending into the raw wind. "'Tis rumored she dabbles in witchcraft," whispered Essie with fright, "but we must help." "Oh, aye," trembled Hattie, "but I shudder to think of this being so close to Halloween." As Mother Leeds labored far into the dark and stormy night, she became more and more agitated. She already had 12 children, and was so angry that there would be one more. She didn't want this 13th child. Outside, the storm raged as Mother Leeds began to groan wildly, for the birth was near. Suddenly, Mother Leeds let out a savage howl and screamed, "Oh, let it be the devil!" And in a flash of lightning and a clap of thunder, Mother Leeds' 13th child was born. But this was no ordinary child. 'Tis said that a monstrous creature circled the room, then flew up the chimney in a puff of smoke and out into the dark night. The two midwives fled, screaming and pounding on windows and doors. "Awake ye all," they shrieked. "The devil's among us, the devil's among us." Candles flickered wildly and lanterns swung violently, casting eerie shadows as folks rushed to heed the alarm. "What is all this?" demanded the mayor. "Oh, such a hideous creature," stammered Essie, trembling from head to toe. "It had the bony head of a horse and a long scaly body and big bat wings sprouting out of its back." "Nay, nay, it was even more hideous than that," gasped Hattie, shaking like a leaf. "It had a forked tail, claws for hands, and the hoofs of a goat." "I know hideous when I see it," bickered Essie. "It had 2 horns growing out of his head and eyes that burned red." "Nay, they glowed yellow," disagreed Hattie. "Red, I say," insisted Essie. The creature, who was sitting in a nearby pine tree, chuckled to himself. "I am really such a handsome devil, aren't I?" Then, with his piercing eyes, which sometimes glowed red and sometimes yellow, so they were both right, he surveyed his new lair with its black swamp, dark woods, and murky bogs. "This place suits me just fine." In the weeks and months that followed, some strange things began to happen. If crops failed, folks said it was the devil's fault. If chickens stopped laying eggs, the devil was to blame. He scared the sheep, caused wells to go dry, spooked horses, and turned over carts. He soured milk, stole pies, and toppled clotheslines. Children were kept indoors. As more stories were told and more sightings witnessed, news of the Jersey Devil spread quickly across the Pine Barrens. All mysterious events were blamed on him. Posses were sent out, but they always came back empty-handed. When a traveling preacher, plodding along on his old nag, got wind of the news, he proclaimed, "I can rid you good folks of this evil demon." He held a huge prayer meeting. Folks came from far and wide. He preached a fiery sermon that went on and on and on and on from morning till night, till he finally passed around his black preacher's hat. Folks gladly dropped in coins, relieved that he was finally finished. For a time, all was quiet. But later, when the preacher was traveling a lonely stretch of road, he suddenly felt hot breath on the back of his neck. "Get rid of me?" smirked the devil. "Perhaps you should leave." And with that he snorted forth flames and smoke, which singed the preacher's hat. "Eek! Heaven help me!" screeched the preacher. He dug in his heels and hightailed it out of the Pine Barrens. Quaking with fear, he raced to the nearest stagecoach inn. The innkeeper thrust a tankard of local applejack into the preacher's quivering hands. "Here, preacher, have a sip of Jersey lightning. It'll steady your nerves." The preacher stood in front of the fire and told all of his harrowing encounter with the Jersey Devil to all of the inn's guests. Listening intently were a couple of city slickers. One was a circus owner from Philadelphia, and the other a land speculator from New York. Both were sly wheeler-dealers. Immediately each started hatching a plan to capture the Jersey Devil. "The Jersey Devil will be my star attraction," plotted the Philadelphia circus owner. "I'll charge a high fee and have money to burn." He jumped to his feet and shouted, "A reward of 100 gold crowns to anyone who captures the Jersey Devil, preferably alive." Not to be outdone by Philadelphia, the New York wheeler-dealer leaped to his feet. "I'll double it to 200 gold crowns, dead or alive," he shouted, for he had plans to stuff the devil, exhibit him in New York, and charge a high fee. "I'll be rich, the toast of the town," he schemed. In no time, devil hunters from New York descended on the Pine Barrens in droves. Fortune seekers from Philadelphia came with cages, chains, and traps. They trampled crops and knocked over fences. They cut down trees and drained swamps. They spooked horses, tipped over carts, and mistakenly captured cows, chickens, and sheep. Children were kept indoors again. Why, they even stole a few pies for their supper, until the good folks of the Pine Barrens had had just about enough of these outsiders. "Better the devil we know than the devil we don't," they agreed, and decided to accept the Jersey Devil as one of their own. The Jersey Devil was touched when he heard this, and so he did the good folks of the Pine Barrens a favor. In a fiery rage, he chased those outsiders back to Philadelphia and back to New York. And to make sure they never returned, he made many terrifying appearances down throughout the years. The most famous of these was during the 3rd week of January, back in 1909. What should have been a peaceful winter's week was anything but. That week the Jersey Devil was sighted outside the Pine Barrens in 30 or more towns. Thousands of people reported seeing either the Jersey Devil himself or his numerous strange tracks in the snow. He hovered and hissed above a trolley car. He perched on backyard sheds and clotheslines, sending housewives into swoons. Factories and schools were closed. Newspapers ran front-page articles. Police were on high alert. Posses were sent out, but dogs refused to track the creature. Even though descriptions and accountings differ, all agreed it must have been the Jersey Devil. Even to this day, hikers tell tales of a mysterious creature sighted on the backwoods trails. Motorists have reported a strange being running alongside their cars, then darting off back into the pines, and many experienced campers have been driven out by unearthly sounds in the darkest of nights. And so, the Pine Barrens, with its black swamps, dark woods, and murky bogs, has managed to preserve its wild and ancient ways and kept outsiders at bay, thanks in part to the Jersey Devil. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is the last Family Read Aloud for summer reading, since summer reading ends this coming Saturday, August 15th. You are welcome to log the story, since you did just read it while you were listening to me read it. So if you have any questions, please contact the library and make sure you log for summer reading. I hope you enjoyed spending this time with me this summer. I definitely enjoyed spending time with you. And Family Read Aloud and other story times will be back sometime in December. I hope you have a great rest of your summer. Have a good night.